Hey guys, I've been doing a series on getting into traditional archery. The first part of this was how you choose your first bow and what all you look for. I did another video on selecting your arrows. On this video, I want to run you guys through how to set up your first Tradbow. You know, you might be coming from a compound and this is also different from that. Maybe you've never touched a bow before. But it's really simple, but there are some very important things you need to know. The first thing, let's talk about our bow string. By the way, this is a Bear Grizzly left-handed. This is my son's bow. Really good little bow, but it's very basic and it's really simple and easy to understand. It's a good bow for the money. Anyway, you've got your bow string, and this is a 58-inch bow. Now, when you order a bow, it will come with a string. Now, if you want to replace the string, you need to be sure that you've got the right string length to match the bow length. The other thing that is critical, some bows can handle high performance materials, strings made out of high performance materials, and some can't. They just use standard Dacron. So you really want to make sure before you order a new string for your bow and find out if it can or can't handle a high performance string like Fast Flight. Dacron is good either way. It's a little bit slower, it's a little bit quieter, it does have a little bit more hand shot. So that's something you want to find out right off the bat. The other, I would say, most important thing is you need to know how to string this thing. It's real easy to twist a limb and get it out of alignment if you string it wrong. You can also, you know, I've done this before when I was a kid, had the string pop off and get yourself in the eye with that hook. So you just always want to use a bow stringer. Now, bow stringers are real simple. All they really are is they're just basically a nylon cord with an attachment on each end. And the way this works, on each end of the bow limb, the bowstring has a loop. And this loop, you can slide it down the string. So when you're stringing or unstringing your bow, you want to put your bow stringer or this cup on the bottom limb. Now that loop is going to stay on the bottom limb. You're going to put this other attachment on the top. Now this loop on the top limb is going to slide down the limb. The bowstring loop is going to slide down the limb when you do this. So all you do, you move this down, you take 1 foot. You don't want to torque or twist the bow. You just grab right in the middle of the grip, the deepest part, and you just lift up about 1 inch and you just slide it down. It's very easy to do. So if you want to get a new string for your bow, just the same way, you know, you put the string on, loop down the top, slide the top loop down the top limb, fix the bottom loop to the bottom, just like that. Put this cup on the bottom tip. Just get this into place, pull up on it, just like that. Now, anytime you do that, you want to feel and make sure you are centered and haven't torqued it. And then you want to check it and make sure that that string is right down the middle of the bow and not off to the side. Now, speaking of the string, a lot of people are going to ask, how often do I need to unstring this bow? Do I need to unstring it and string it every time I'm going to shoot? You know, can I go years like that? My answer for that would be to see what the manufacturer recommends. I know guys that never unstring their bow, and they've left them strung for a couple of years and shoot them, and they don't seem to have any problems. I know guys that unstring them every time they're done shooting. I think that's a bit much. I will say the majority of the time you twist a limb or damage your bow is going to be during stringing. My opinion is, you know, I don't think you need to do that. You know, unstring it maybe once a week, once a month. I think that's good. I have done that my whole life. I've never had any problems, but there again, consult the manufacturer and see what they recommend for your bow. These little fuzzy things here are string silencers. These are rubber cat whiskers, And they make wool puff silencers and all different kind of silencers, and if you're a hunter, you definitely want those because they'll quiet the bow down. If you're just shooting targets, they're not necessary, but they will give you a more enjoyable experience, and they will also take a little of the hand shock out of it. This little brass thing right here is called a nocking point. Now you can use these pre-made brass nocking points, or you can tie them on with serving material. And what that does, that helps you locate the arrow in the same exact point every single time. Another thing you're going to need to do is put your arrow rest on. Now, if you have a fancy bow, you can put elevated rest and all that, kind of like you would a compound, but most traditional shooters are going to use something really simple like this. And this is called a rug rest. And this is like carpet, you know, it's a really soft kind of furry carpet material. And this is just a leather strike plate. And that's what I recommend getting. I like to shoot off the shelf, and there's nothing that once this thing's on here, there's nothing to break, nothing's going to go wrong, and you just want to be sure you've got you a good rest on there. I just want to say a quick word about bow tuning. I'm going to do another video on this, and I'm going to go into depth on it. You know, it can get really complicated, and there's a whole lot of different factors we can talk about. But something I just want to go ahead and mention is this is called brace height, the distance between your string and the deepest part of your grip. And you can adjust that by unstringing your bow, and tightening your string is going to give you a greater brace height. Untwisting your string is going to give you a shorter brace height. Now when you buy your bow, one of the first things you need to get is one of these bow squares. And all this is, it's basically a ruler, but it pops on there, and you can, you know, it's got inches on one side and metric on the other. But anyway, you pop that on there and you can measure your brace height. And my son has got his set at about 7 1/8, it looks like. So very simply, when you're tuning a bow, if you're getting left to right nock travel when you're shooting your arrows, you can adjust that out with your brace height. You can try shortening the string. You can try lengthening the string. So that's one way you tune it. And you know, you twist it a few times, restring it, shoot some arrows, see how it's doing, twist it sometime, you know, just keep going over and over till you get perfect left to right travel. Really easy to do. The other way that we can tune, this is your nocking point. Now you would measure that the same way, but you, instead of putting it right here, you would put it up on the shelf. Now, depending on how you are going to shoot your bow, if you're shooting split finger, where you have the arrow in that gap, I would start out, this is 90 degrees, I would start 3/8 above 90 degrees. If you're shooting 3 fingers under the arrow, a good rule of thumb is start out about 5/8 above 90 degrees. Now, the nocking point is going to control the porpoising of the arrow, the up and down arrow flight. Now, there is no right or no wrong place for that. You know, it's not what your buddy does, it's not what somebody tells you, it's where your bow gets the best arrow flight. When you've got that thing tuned good, you're just going to see one little bead of color going down to the target. But if you see any movement with that arrow fletching, you can adjust that. So this is a brass nock point. You've got nock pliers, you can move this up and down. I like to just tie on a simple serving knot that I can twist up and down till I get it tuned right where I want it. Once I know right where you know, the final place I want it to stay, I'll put a little super glue on there and just lock it into place. So remember, left to right arrow travel, adjust with your brace height. Up and down arrow travel will adjust with the nock point. Like I said, I'm going to do a very in-depth video on bow tuning, and we'll get into arrow spine and FOC and different kind of helicals and a million other things, but this is kind of basic 101, how you need to tune your bow. Now, you're going to need some way to carry your arrows around. If you're a hunter, I highly recommend getting a bow quiver. If you're not a hunter, you know, just about anything will work, but there's a number of different kind of quivers that you can put on a hunting bow. This quiver here it's made by Selway, and it's just a hood that goes on your upper limb and a hood on the bottom limb, and when the bow is unstrung, it's real easy. You just slide it up the limb. That's a very good quiver, very simple. My son's bow here, he has attachment bushings, and this is a Great Northern quiver, and these screws, it just screws right into the handle. That's another really good way simple way to carry a bow quiver. This bow I have does not have any attachment bushings, and this is called a strap-on quiver. This is a Great Northern also, and these are like rubber straps, and you wrap them around really tight and lock them in place, and that thing's not going anywhere. That's a really good quiver, and my experience is this rubber on here really helps dampen some of the shock and makes the bow shoot a little bit better. Now, if you're one of these kind of guys that doesn't really like to tinker, you just want to go out and shoot, a higher brace height is generally going to shoot a little bit quieter. It's going to have a little less hand shock. It's also going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to add more poundage to your bow. Generally, a higher brace height is going to have better aeroflight. Now, there is a sweet spot in there, that's going to be perfect, and I don't know, it could be anywhere from 6.5 to 9 inches. And there's really no way to know, because all these factors, how far you draw the bow, how you anchor, how you grip the bow, what kind of air you're using, all of those go into effect on that. But if you're one of these kind of people that just don't really want to fool with that, twist it up to the manufacturer is going to have a recommended brace height. Like, for instance, he might say between 7 and 8 inches. If you don't want to worry about all that, just crank that thing up to about 8 inches and be done with it. There's a better spot for it, but it'll probably shoot pretty good right about there. I hope you guys have gotten something out of this. Like I said, this is one part of a long series, and there'll be more to come, and I'll see you guys next week.